I see no reason whatsoever why you don't pick New York to run this one home.
Can you really call any of them an MVP when they're all kind of playing better off the backs of one another?
I've never been more wrong about probably anything in Call of Duty ever.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the playoffs edition of Contesting the Point. That's right, we're getting ready to crown our 2020 CDL champion in just a matter of weeks. And to provide some top-tier insight and expertise, we've got Maven and Miles in the building with us today. What's up, guys? Are you ready for next week?
Well, you did not get the expert side of our duos, FYI. That's Chance and Joe.
But okay, so it's still going to be great. Clint, it's still going to be good.
Oh, we're going to have a blast, but Miles, we are not the experts.
I'm off camera right now. I left camera.
Where'd you go?
I did my best Chance impersonation.
No, but I'm excited. This is going to be fun, and it's the biggest time of the year. Ton of money up for grabs. I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We're going to talk a lot about that money that's up for grabs. But first, we're almost at the end of the season, so I would expect most of you guys to know the rules. But for those who don't, here's how it goes. I'm going to present a headline from the CDL. I'm then going to give a hot take on the story. One of the guests will defend the hot take while the other attacks it. I'll award points for convincing arguments. And after 3 stories, whoever has the most points wins 60 seconds to pop off in our Astro Listen Up moment. Does that sound good, everybody?
I think it sounds wonderful.
Let's go ahead and dive straight into the playoff bracket. I believe that the consensus among most is that the top 4 teams are FaZe, Empire, the Mutineers, and the Huntsmen. And these teams are the favorite to make it to the Champs Weekend. With that said, though, we know there's some upset potential in there, especially in this online environment. So my hot take is that out of the teams who are not one of those top 4 teams that I just mentioned, the New York Subliners are most likely to make a deep run, a dark horse run in the playoffs. Maven, despite New York looking better towards the end of the regular season, you're not quite on board. Why not?
I don't even know if I'd argue they did, considering how the last event went. But no, I'm not convinced. I think New York would be in the conversation of teams that can make a run as far as dark horse goes, but I don't know that they're my number 1 for me. When you talk about S&D, they've been weak. They really only have one good Dom. The reason they're a little bit higher in the CDL rankings is because of one weekend that I think many can see as a bit of a fluke, in the sense that the most drastic meta change we've had, because I know we've been hopping around quite a bit, but the most drastic change we had when it was basically 3 to 4 ARs on most maps was right before that event. And subs got pummeled. Like, MP5 players got destroyed. For whatever reason, the 2 players that found success were aBeZy and Zuma. And Zuma fried. New York Subliners looked good. That meta seemed to work for them great. But as soon as we switched back, they got smoked. They don't even make it out of groups. So I'm not convinced. I think you have a lot of teams right now that could make a run. In Ultra, maybe Optic, Subliners, Ravens. No one can convince me that Subliners are the favorite to do that right now.
Right. And I think it's good that you mentioned Zuma. He did have a good weekend that weekend, and he was still
awesome.
Yeah, and he didn't do too much adjusting because he still was playing sub. But that said, New York looked like a completely different team at that last event. You're right about that. What do you have to say to counter any of that, Miles?
Well, Clint's correct. There's been a lot of changes, and I think given the state of change right now, I still believe that New York can make a very decent run. They've got Rocker in their first round. They're probably going to beat those. They're not looking great at the moment. They've just made a change. We've got no idea what to expect. You cannot expect a squad to have just made a change like that to be able to handle a team like New York. I genuinely believe they're going to have a good game against the Huntsmen again. It's all up in the air for me, like in general, but I just still think the New York Subliners have got a very, very good squad. I still think the Zuma's fantastic. I think Max still can slay with the absolute best of them. I see no reason whatsoever why you don't pick New York to run this one home. I think they still have a good run against pretty much everyone in the lower bracket. They basically beat all those teams. Maybe Paris give them a tough run because they look good right now, but I just don't see anyone giving them a chance. Up until FaZe, I think FaZe is going to be the team to knock New York down, but after that, I think they're all good. I think they're completely fine, and they're definitely going to make that deep run.
But like, what have we learned, Miles, when you look back to years prior? And I know that, well, I know the format was a little different in years prior, but at the end of our regular season, typically how that playoff event ended, like those couple of top teams did really well at Champs. Like the performance you had right before Champs is really indicative of it. And that's what I'm really worried about Subliners. Like, whereas Optic looked to be improving right before Champs, and Ultra looked to be improving, and Ravens, who the hell knows, Subliners just fell flat. So I have concerns. I really do. And I think you're right in the sense they can make a run, Absolutely.
But
are they the best position to do it? I don't know about that.
Who would be more likely to do it over them, to have a deeper run than they would have?
Honestly, I think I would argue right now, based on like how history has gone and who's been hot, I'd probably take Ultra. Just with how they did at that most recent event, how they played. We can talk about the Bell internet provider and whatever's going on there, but they were lords. And the fact is that they dominated that event, and they might be the team for me. Maybe Optic next up with kind of how they've been improving with the two new young players.
Yeah, I would like to hit a pause on that one. I'm going to hit that big old pause button straight away. And I'm saying that because you give New York Sideliners in the winners bracket round 1, you got a team like Rocker, you got a team like Huntsman round 2 for them. I just think they go a little further. I think Ultra maybe have a struggle against London because, let's face it, both teams are going to be a little inconsistent. I have no idea what to expect. And then you get hit by that brick wall of Florida in round 2. It's going to be so much harder for those teams to make that run in that position.
I don't know. Florida, Huntsman, I guess I don't really see that much of a difference right now between those teams, but yeah, I guess you could argue Ravens are a little bit tougher than Rocker, maybe, but I don't know, man. I just want the event to start. I can't wait.
No, I'm totally with you, Maven. I agree with you. What you said about the subliners looking not the best in that last event as opposed to before. Of course, the meta changes definitely played a role in that. But as Miles pointed out, I just think the road is just a little bit easier for them as opposed to the Ultra, who looked great in that last event, who probably may be the stronger team between New York and the subliners, but at the same time, they just have a tougher road to victory. Running into the Mutineers isn't going to be an easy party for those guys. So with that being said, I'm going to give this round of Miles 4 points to 3, which is our count at the end of round 1. So with this year, Champs has the biggest prize pool in Call of Duty history. It's huge. We've got 4.6 million in prize money that's going out to the squads depending on placement. It's a lot of cashola. Now, obviously, only 4 teams can make it to Champs weekend for a shot at the $1.5 million grand prize, but the rest of the payouts aren't too shabby. They're pretty good. On the flip side, though, the 4 teams who are at the bottom of the standings are in a real tough situation. While everyone else starts in the winner's bracket, the bottom 4 start in the loser's bracket, meaning they only have 1 shot of getting a big payout. I'm wondering who out of those bottom teams right now are looking the most likely to make a far run and get the bigger payout. So my hot take is that the Paris Legion will make it the furthest out of the bottom 4. Miles, you seem to think Paris has a good shot at making a nice run. Why is that?
I think Paris have been on the upward. I suppose it was an explosion. Last time we saw Paris was great. You know, they managed to get themselves into a finals. They looked fantastic. Search and Destroy is the best it's ever looked for them. You know, second only in the league next to like Dallas after the last few home series events. When it comes to Respawn, that's on the rise as well. I mean, Kismet's been saying things about domination looking better than ever before. I mean, and I genuinely believe when I look at the bottom 4 teams there, that Paris have got the advantage head and shoulders above the rest. I think OGLA, yeah, sure, the newcomers come in. The squad looks a little better than before, but I just think Paris's current form right now is going to be enough to drag them along through that lower bracket run, and they sorely need the run to turn around what has been a diabolical year, but I think they can get it done. I think they have all the right pieces in the right place of time. I think it's going to be fine for Paris.
They just 3-0'd your subliners tue.
There you go. They're going to be even better than the sub. The subliners going to get down the lower bracket after losing to the Huntsman, and they're in trouble. They're in trouble.
Yeah, no, Paris is looking good. I have a feeling that I kind of already know who. But Maven, if not the Paris Legion in that bottom 4, who else could you potentially see making a Cinderella run and getting some cash at the end of this tournament?
I kind of like what Miles is saying in the sense that I think Legion has some potential to do it because their Search and Destroy has been so good over the last couple of events, and that's frightening to a lot of teams. The reason that I don't see Legion going very far is because they don't have, I guess, as much upset potential to beat some of the top teams because they have to do it through Search, right? Like, they're not going to take many respawns off of, like, your top 4 squads or some of the top teams, whereas I feel like, personally, Optic Gaming has a chance to do that just because of slaying power and the improvements they have with the likes of Draza and Hollow. I know they didn't look incredible by any means at the most recent event, but I think we can all agree they were improved and they were really fun to watch. Like, you can kind of see them getting better quickly, and they didn't have that long to play together. Now they're going to have, like, what, basically a month of just scrimming nonstop to improve before this event. And I kind of just have to stick with Optic Gaming because I said at the beginning of the year they're going to be the best team. I've never been more wrong about probably anything in Call of Duty ever. I was so wrong, but I still see them as the biggest threat. Maybe I'm still just blinded by the names, and you're Kenny and Slasher, like all TJ, all these superstar. Maybe I'm still blinded by it, but there's part of me, you can't count them out, man. You cannot count out Slasher at champs. I really do think there's a chance they can make a run here. I do.
That's a good point. I was waiting for the off the game in LA name drop. I was waiting for it the entire time. Miles, you have anything to say to counter that one?
I don't know if there's anything I need to say to counter it. Like, I talked about how Paris had a diabolical year. I think when you look at OGLA's year, it's probably even worse just based on the names. You know, we're going to look back at the first year of the CDL and go, wow, that was crazy for so many reasons, you know, and I think that's going to be one of them. The mere fact that OGLA underperformed so much.
What's worse, like them or Seattle? When you think about the names that are on the team, probably Optic. Probably, no, I think I agree with you. Probably Optic. Like, more disappointing.
I think for me, it's Optic because you look at the year that Dashi had in Black Ops 4, and then he comes into this game, and he just looks like a pile of steaming turd. Like, terrible.
It's a totally different topic, but...
No, this is a good point. Let's keep going. This is a great point. Seattle had a bad run. Karma had to retire, but Dashi's riding the pine. I mean, surely that says enough. One of the best players in the world is on your bench. That's a bad turn of events for a squad that should have been that good.
Yeah, it definitely is. You know, one thing about Paris, I feel the point that you made about Paris being the best search team or one of the best search teams is something we should look at because in order to get to that second round of search, they got to win those other maps. They got to win those respawns. And I think that's going to play a huge role, especially when everyone's firing on all cylinders during the playoffs. So with that being said, I'm going to give this round to Maven 3 points to 2. We are all tied up at 6 apiece. All right, guys, the regular season over, and we have our 5 Astro MVP candidates: Simp, Shotzi, Celium, Envoy, and Skies. Now, I think we're all in agreement that these 5 players have definitely earned their spot to be in the running for the MVP. But my question is, if there was a 6th spot for somebody to be an MVP candidate, who would we give it to? My hot take is that if there was a 6th spot, that MVP candidate would be aBeZy. Miles, you're on the attack. Who else but aBeZy could possibly be in that 6th spot?
aBeZy's a good pick, but I think it's a bit excessive to give it to 3 members of FaZe in that sense. I mean, the fact that Cell and Simp are both in there is huge enough. But like, if I had to give it to someone, I'd probably give it to a player who truly has made an incredible difference to a squad. And a lot of people would give it to Mac, but I'm going to give it to Awakening from the Florida Mutineers. He came in back-to-back home series wins, back-to-back, you know, like transformative performances for an entire squad. Like, Awakening had a very, very good debut to his career in the CDL. Again, we talk about a life-changing career performance. Like, he has built himself a reputation now of being a dominant player, surrounded by some fun controversy, but whatever, man, he's turning heads very, very quickly. And I just think that if you take him out of the team, you know, the Florida Mutineers, yeah, they're still very, very good. Skies is still incredible. The team as a whole is still very well-rounded, and they're very good at the game, but I just think Awakening brings so much right now that is literally the intangibles he brings are incredible to the game, and watching him play right now, it's really a thing of beauty.
Right. I mean, it's kind of tough because he was only playing for a portion of the season, but you cannot deny that him playing for the Florida Mutineers has completely turned a corner for that squad. Maven, what do you have to say, man? Defend aBeZy. Cut him some slack here.
I don't have a problem with just picking more FaZe players because there's a reason they've been the best team in the game and the #1 spot in CDL points and might go down eventually as one of the best rosters of all time when it's all said and done. Playing the SMG role, especially the entry role, is the hardest role in Call of Duty esports. I think we can all agree on that, and it is difficult to kind of highlight how good people are at that role because their stats are typically a little bit lower because it's so difficult. aBeZy still manages to put up the stats, even though he's in one of the hardest roles in the game. And why do you think Simp's stats are so good? Simp is great. Simp is incredible, but there's a reason they're called the Tiny Terrors. He has aBeZy going in front of him all the time, making the crazy plays. Like that stat I saw the other day with aBeZy and how many like first encounters he has in Search and Destroy compared to everybody else in the league is comical. Like the guy is just flying and sprinting at stuff, and it makes it so much easier for the rest of his team. He is just so good. I think I was really highlighted when the meta shift happened back to 3 AR. And you saw the SMG players had to kind of play like regular SMG COD, right? They couldn't challenge everything at range with the 10mm rounds. They weren't mapping people with the MP5. You really had to pick your spots, play your positions, and people like Zuma and aBeZy were the only 2 that really dominated. Like I talked to aBeZy about it. He's like, I had to play smart. I couldn't challenge everything. And you really saw how good he was that weekend. I think he just gets overshadowed by Simp at times. But the fact is, aBeZy is a god. He is, I think aBeZy is one of the most, if not the most underrated player in Call of Duty esports right now, purely because he's aligned next to Simp.
Yeah. I like that a lot, dude. I remember that event. It was I remember like the first time we saw aBeZy go insane. My mentions were on fire. People telling me to stop riding him, and I was like, "Are you seeing this? Are you so seeing this?"
He's so good, and I mean, maybe underrated is not the right way to put it, but I think he is sometimes just because he's next to Simp, and everyone like Simp's like the golden son, you know. Like I think aBeZy's probably the number 2 SMG in the game. Honestly, I think he's probably number 2. And he's not in there because Simp and Celium are. That's just tough for him.
If you put aBeZy on any squad in the league, he would immediately level them up in a huge way. Like any team.
Miles, he's
I know, but now we're going down this rabbit hole of like, well, aBeZy's disgusting.
Well, what makes you think of what does it remind you of? What was the Oklahoma City Thunder when they had, what was it? It was like Westbrook, Durant, who was the other player?
James Harden.
They had all 3, and everyone's just like, well, if they go anywhere else, they're going to be superstars. Well, yeah, and of course they were. Like they ended up being, supreme, ultra, mega superstars in their own rights. And aBeZy is that, I guess. But I don't know. I just love the kid. Think he's an incredible player.
Whew. Well, it's tough because 3 stars of that caliber all playing together. Can you really call any of them an MVP the most valuable when they're all kind of playing better off the backs of one another? I think that's always
hard. Yeah.
That's always going to be an argument that's going to be had in this. And I think Miles did bring up some good players in Awakening and Mac Mel's. These are 2 guys who came onto their squads who were near the bottom or middle of the pack and completely turned those squads around. All that being said, though, man, it's just really hard to argue against aBeZy. Miles is even helping you to make the case for most of this topic. aBeZy, he's just nuts, and I do feel that he is one of those underappreciated talents because of the team that he's on that has so much firepower. With that being said, I'm gonna give this round and this game to Maven. Maven, you're gonna get this. You're gonna get this 3 points to 2 in this round, which brings our final count 9-8. Make you our winner, Maven. You get 60 seconds to pop off in our Astro Listen Up moment. What would you like to say to all the Call of Duty fans out there?
I'm gonna use these 60 seconds to thank the fans. This year has been absurd. I think we can all agree for many reasons, not just Call of Duty wise, but just 2020 in retrospective is going to be one of the most insane years probably of most people's lifetimes with everything going on. And life has not been great for many people. And I think it's been fantastic that we could still have the CDL, like a lot of major sports that weren't able to continue, we're still able to put it on a show. And I know it hasn't been perfect, and there have been production issues and online issues and all sorts of problems, but for those of you that have stuck with us and watched throughout the year, just want to say I appreciate you because I love being a part of this. I think I speak for all the broadcast talent that this is incredible that we can get to continue our jobs through this trying and insane pandemic that we're all dealing with. But thank you for watching. Thank you for putting up with the insanity that this year has been. And well, just a couple weeks left, and we have the CDL Championship and playoffs, and it is going to be a wild, wild ride. We'll see you then.
All right, everybody, that does it for this episode of Contesting the Point. Thanks once again to Miles and Maven for bringing the heat as per usual. And guys, make sure Wednesday, August 19th, 12 p.m. noon Pacific, the CDL playoff starts. We'd like to see you there. You're not going to want to miss it. But until then, everybody, have a great weekend.